And last but not least, we are here to tell the Trump administration and our elected officials to stop undermining science in the name of politics. I cannot believe how many of you there are. You are the most important part of this march. I want to take a roll call. Do we have students with us today? Do we have educators with us today? Do we have citizen scientists with us today? Where are our researchers and our healthcare providers? Make some noise. Where are our artists and our musicians and everyone who understands intersectionality? Where are our small woke people? Do we have the young people in Eugene with us today? Who brought them? They are the most important part of this, and they are placing their votes loud and clear with us today. Welcome, everyone. Without any further ado, I am going to introduce to you the very brief speakers that we have today. We have Sarah and Tia. Sarah is a graduate of the University of Oregon in geology in 2002. She got her Master of Education also here from the University of Oregon in 2005. She teaches at North Eugene High School in the science department. She has brought with her a student, senior at North, the head of the Gender and Sexuality Alliance, a full IB candidate. And she's in Sarah's biology class. They're going to start us off, you guys. Let's make a round of applause for Sean Call for playing us in. Welcome!
Hello, my name is Sarah. I am a scientist.
A scientist! Well, I'm Tia and I'm a scientist.
I am a scientist.
We're both scientists.
We're all scientists. Like many people, I was drawn to the sciences because I had the perception it was cut and dry. There was no right and wrong answer. This is not the case, however, because sometimes asking questions in science only leads to more questions. This is how it is with teaching as well. For years, I thought the most important thing about teaching was the curriculum, but it's not. It's important, but the most important thing is the students.
I got into the sciences early watching PBS programs like Nova. They made science into something interesting, something fascinating, something I wanted to learn about further, and I did. I'm doing the full IB, and I'm testing in biology next week. But it is almost impossible to learn anything, let alone something so complicated as higher level biology, when you are facing a school and a community with a climate that is so hostile to people like you.
Every day I teach things that have nothing to do with science. Imagine how hard it is to learn anything when you have students in crisis. Imagine how hard it is to teach in that situation.
You should be revolted by the state of social injustice in our schools. Spend any time inside one and you will see the impact that this administration has had on our children. Racism, misogyny, ableism, homophobia, transphobia, modeled by our so-called leaders, and our youth are watching.
Meanwhile, science is under attack. Teaching the scientific truths of evolution, climate change, the Big Bang, it's a political act now. Teachers are on the front lines of a war being waged over a divided nation. We are not just teaching our curriculum, we're teaching how to be human. We're teaching how to confront deep-seated biases and systematic racism. We're teaching how to build bridges instead of walls.
Closer, he says, closer. On election day, students wore Trump signs to class and joined adults on the corner screaming, "Trump that bitch." I was told it was about damn time my family got deported. A transgender student was physically assaulted in a bathroom, and this is only the surface of the structural oppression that this administration has revealed.
We must not get comfortable. Our brains have evolved to help us cope. But how am I to cope with the fact that my own white privilege has contributed to these problems? We cope by filtering out information that makes us uncomfortable. We focus on positives, surround ourselves with like-minded people, and avoid confrontation. It is difficult to be angry all the time. It is difficult to have these conversations. But we have to, and we have to do it right.
The destruction of science is insidious and ubiquitous. If news is fake and teachers are liars, then science can't be real either, can it?
Let's talk about evolution, that sweet intersection between geology and biology. Vice President Mike Pence says evolution is just a theory. Just a theory. Like gravity is just a theory. Plate tectonics is just a theory. Our Oregon State science standards stand in direct opposition to what our current administration advocates. Our Oregon State science standards are strong on evolution, strong on environmentalism. Climate change is real. Science is greater than opinion. Let's keep it that way.
Yes. Carry the youth with you as you leave here today. What is the next action you are going to take? Because we cannot stand for this attack on science. We cannot condone acts of oppression that make it impossible for students to learn and for teachers to teach. Contact your representatives and demand that they stand up. Encourage those who are doing so already. Join local organizations that directly impact people near you. Confront the people you see in your own lives that are committing acts of oppression and silence. And confront your own bias, your own flaws, because no one is exempt, and we cannot be complacent.
It is not enough to just teach science, or any content matter for that matter. We are teaching how to protect and preserve our future. We are teaching how to not be complacent. We are teaching how to fight. It's time to step up. Support your local schools, even if you don't have a school-aged child. Demand that no federal guidelines interfere with our Oregon State science standards. If you haven't already identified yourself as an ally, now is the time. Step up and become a warrior for equity. Take the next step. Keep on fighting. And we're all scientists.
Yeah, we love it. No.
Other way. Use the other way.
This one. Thanks. Can I get a little bit of a pep talk now from y'all? Let's just make some Hey! Oh, you are still with us. Awesome. We love to see your shining faces. We have next for you Professor Jeffrey Sina from the University of Oregon. When we contacted the University of Oregon and said, we want you to suggest someone to us, this is who the faculty gave us. He's a professor of theoretical and physical chemistry since 1995. He got his PhD at Berkeley and he did his postdoc work at MIT, and he has made a home here doing research with us. Please welcome him.
Okay. Happy Earth Day, everybody! I'd like to begin by sharing an imaginary greeting from the actual current head of the Environmental Protection Agency. Dear Eugene Science Marchers, I know you mean well, But you really should acknowledge that the sun revolves around the earth rather than vice versa, as has been suggested by that glassy-eyed fanatic Galileo Galilei. There's no convincing evidence that atmospheric carbon dioxide from fossil fuel consumption is a significant driver of anthropogenic global warming. Please go home. Sincerely, Scott Pruitt. Well, sorry, Scott, but we're not going anywhere. I spend my work days teaching about and investigating molecular quantum mechanics. And it's a thrill to join the most spirited assembly of nerds rampant ever witnessed in the Pacific Northwest. We're here in support of scientific research, education, and communication. The practice of science can be fun, informative, and worthwhile. It can offer insights and choices that would not otherwise be available. Science doesn't make choices for us, though, nor supersede other creative, compassionate, thoughtful modes of engagement with each other or the world around us, the world of which we're all a part. It's troubling to see that right now, some of our leaders would prefer neglect and disengagement from science in particular, and from factually based decision-making in general. Now, there are many possibilities and perils that we could discuss together on Earth Day. But let me pick a big one on which we can help educate Scott Pruitt and our other political leaders. The topic of global climate change induced by human actions since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution a couple hundred years ago. If you want to know more about this topic, I recommend John Houghton's book, Global Warming, the third edition of which is free as a PDF online. So let's all go like this. When you do that, you are a carbon dioxide molecule. Your chest is a carbon atom, and your two hands are oxygen atoms. And instead of flapping your arms several times a second, you're actually vibrating 1 trillion times faster than that. Now let's imagine that each of us carbon dioxide molecules is 2 miles above the surface of the Earth, about the height of South Sister, and fully 1/3 of the way through the troposphere, which is actually pretty thin. We might have gotten there from gasoline burnt in someone's car, from deforestation in the Amazon basin, or, though it's much less likely, from one of the many exhalations of former Oregon track and field great Jordan Hasse as she made her marathon debut in Boston last Monday. As we vibrate 20 million times a second, we can absorb thermal radiation from the Earth's surface, capturing heat that was headed for outer space. When we re-radiate that energy, we might send it on its way to space, or we may help warm the Earth by delivering it back to the planet's surface. In doing so, we'd be participating in the greenhouse effect, which has been recognized for more than a century as a natural warming process, like a nice warm blanket over planet Earth that keeps it cozy for people, plants, and other living things. The problem is that since we started burning fossil fuel like it's going out of style, especially in the last 50 years or so, and it really should be going out of style about now, we've got way too much of a good thing. Too much atmospheric CO2, along with other greenhouse gases like methane. Too much global warming. It's like we're piling on more blankets than we need to stay comfortable, and we're starting to overheat. We could speculate about why people like Scott Pruitt find it so hard to understand this concept. But we're here to take a break from our studies and our lab work to participate in an urgent conversation with our fellow citizens about this and other important issues before Mother Nature herself resolves them to our detriment. Thank you all so much for being here.
You guys are getting bigger by the moment. It's really exciting to see such a large and enthusiastic crowd. Thank you so much for coming. One of the things that is important about today's event for you to know is that we have spent $0 today. Well done, City of Eugene. Part of that we put on you. We want to leave the University of Oregon, our kind hosts, cleaner than we found it today. So please make sure if you pack it in, you pack it out with you. We're going to bring some local talent to the stage to bring some energy to this. We have our local fabulous talent, Haley Loren, coming to sing to you right now. After that, we're going to have a couple of more speakers. Please take this opportunity to build community. Turn to the people on either side of you. Ask them what they do and why they are here. Find a new connection and dance.
Let's hear it for Ruby, who put all of this together, you guys. It's a big job. Oh, I don't know about you, but I am a firm believer in the power of music to change the world. And there's a particular songwriter who did a whole lot of that in a very crucial time in American history, Mr. Pete Seeger. I'm going to sing one of my favorite songs of his in honor of this occasion. One blue sky above us, one ocean lapping all our shores, one earth so green and round, who could ask for more? And because I love you, I'll give it one more try to show my rainbow race. It's too soon to die, too soon to die. Some folks wanna be like an ostrich, bury their heads in the sand. And some hope that plastic dreams can unclench out the greedy hands. And some wanna take the easy way, poisons and bombs, they think we need 'em. Don't they know they can't kill all the unbelievers? There's no shortcut to freedom. No one blue sky above us, one ocean lapping all our shores, one earth so green and round, who could ask for more? And because I love you, I'm gonna give it one more try to show my rainbow race that it's too soon to die. So go tell all the little children, go tell the mothers and fathers too. Now's our last chance to learn to share what's been given to me and you. Oh, one blue sky above us, one ocean lapping all our shores, one earth so green and round, who could ask for more? And because I love you, well, I'm gonna give it one more try to show my rainbow race that it's too soon to die. And because I love you, I'm gonna give it one more try to show my rainbow race it's too soon to die. Thank you.
Oh, we can make more noise for her. She did that a cappella. It takes everybody to hold a soulful event. We need everybody, all the scientists and all of the artists. Right now, I want to bring to the stage one of the elected representatives that have come here today to help validate the fact that they see you. They are listening to you. I know they're up here speaking, but they are here to see you. So can we get a round of applause, please, for Representative Julie Fahey?
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much. My name is Julie Fahey, and I'm the state representative for West Eugene and Junction City, representing in the Oregon legislature in Salem. And I find myself to be somewhat of a rarity in politics, an elected official with a chemistry degree. I wish there were more of us, mainly so that I would have a bigger audience for my terrible chemistry jokes. So, since I have a captive audience right now, I'm going to tell you one right now. What do atoms and Donald Trump have in common? They make up everything. But in all seriousness, it is so important that we have elected leaders who understand science, who value science, and who engage in evidence-based policymaking. I'm not sure evidence-based policymaking has ever been an applause line in any one of my speeches, but thank you. I know Congressman DeFazio is coming up in a little bit here to talk about what's happening at the national level. And I have been so thrilled to see how hard people are working to push back. People are calling and emailing their congressmen daily. They're coming, they're donating their time and their energy to important causes, and they're coming out to march today. But I am here to say that it could not be clearer to me that we can make real, meaningful change at the state and local level, especially here in Oregon, and especially on issues related to science. I believe that climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time. And Oregon must do our part. It is time that we transition to a clean energy economy. This year, we have a chance to pass a clean energy jobs bill that would cap and set a price on our climate pollution here in Oregon. Oregon can lead the way and set an example for the rest of this country. But it's not just about the big issues. There are so many ways that our government could be supporting science and scientific research. I'm proud to be a sponsor this year of a bill that would create a university research fighting fund that would make it easier for our public universities to go after federal research grants by providing matching funds from our state. So I ask you to support candidates who support science, to find out who your state representatives and your state senators are, and to add them to your daily call and email list. And if it's me, you can just talk to me over there. I'll be here later. In the time of Donald Trump, it is now more important than ever that Oregon take the lead in pushing for evidence-based public policy. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you for being such great champions of science.
We love it. We love it. We might be here today at the University of Oregon, but I am standing on a stage from Lane Community College. And again, it's a zero money event. Thank you, Lane Community College, for everything that you've done. Along those lines, over my left shoulder is the Dean of Science at Lane Community College. He's got a background in climate science. He comes to us out of Florida State, but most importantly, perhaps, he is the first of his family to graduate college. Everyone can, and everyone should have an opportunity to do so. Let's welcome Paul Rusher.
Thank you, Ruby. Happy Earth Day. Happy John Muir's birthday, everybody. Let's see your signs. There's tremendous signs out there. Thank you for coming. Thank you for... And I'm sure you're all paid protesters, right? All right, what I'd like to do is I will be talking a little bit about climate today because I've done a little climate work in my time. But really, I'm just here as another individual voice for reason and rationality in government. It can be a tool, it can be a weapon, or it can be a path forward, but it should seems to have been the crux of federal policy over the last days. No matter what we do as humans to our planet, Earth will be fine. I can't tell you the rest of what he said. This is a family event. Earth's history is filled with cataclysmic events in our Earth's past. But this is the first time that we are causing a cataclysmic event. We have defined a new era, the Anthropocene, and that's not a good thing. Science tells us a lot about what can happen in the future because we have tools like prediction models that can be validated and developed and tested and can give us new ideas. And so far, the short-term impacts of climate change here in the Willamette Valley are not too bad, except we may see an influx of people who want to get away from the heat that's going to develop in other places. But by the end of this century, things do not even look good for the Willamette Valley. And there are scientists here at U of O and OSU and Portland State and throughout this world doing fundamental work that is going to help us to solve the problem if we can talk to our public policy makers and make some rational choices. And that's why this event today is important. So thank you for coming. I want to mention a little bit about how scientists figure stuff out. How do we know what we know? We know because we take observations systematically, following established protocols. We know because we trust our teams of technicians and scientists and colleagues who edit our work and go through the peer review to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. We take care of our data. We share our data. We care about the process of science and discovery. And yet there is also a very tentative nature to science that many people do not understand. It's not that we're just making stuff up. We're asking questions and getting answers, but these bring new questions and new answers. We keep figuring new stuff out. And that's why we keep taking observations. And that's unfortunately why we sometimes need funds to take these observations, okay? We're not lining our pockets. We're trying to do good science for public policy that makes sense. Here are just a few examples of what scientists have figured out about climate change. We know that due to excessive use of fossil fuels, carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are increasing in the atmosphere faster than at any time in human history. We know that there is a lack of buffering capacity in the ocean to absorb all that excess CO2, and as a result, sea life is suffering due to acidification and the lack of that buffering. We know there are other human impacts, such as irresponsible land use changes that reduce vegetation and also end up increasing greenhouse gases. We know that the negative weather pattern impacts that result from climate change have on species adaptation strategies, and these affect plant and animal communities as well as human behavior and human migration and sustainability patterns. We know the fact that greenhouse gases are persistent for decades, like carbon dioxide, But there are others, like water vapor, that recycle every day. That's what brought us the rain this morning, and that's what's bringing the clouds to us today. The greenhouse gas that we emit today, if for carbon dioxide, will be around for at least 50 more years. It is time to go zero carbon. There are also tremendous negative impacts on our water systems, on hydrology and water infrastructure, and of course the ice caps and our glaciers are drearily impacted by climate change. Scientists develop critical thinking skills in their labs and in their work that allow us to assess information, but we also have to be careful to realize that we're not experts in everything scientific. I'm not going to talk to you about microbiology, but I bet there are some microbiologists out here you can talk to if you want to learn something about microbiology, okay? We figure out how things work. But we as scientists are not the only ones who develop critical thinking skills. We're standing here behind the library. We've got the art museum here. Let's hear it for the artists and the linguists and the editors who also we depend on as scientists to make sure we're getting our message out. For decades, scientists have developed climate models that are now being used to forecast what our climate system could look like by the end of this century. We can't prove that those models are going to work. I couldn't tell you this morning what time the rain would come today, okay? Weather prediction isn't an inexact science, but we can use these same models and calibrate them based on past observations. Our global atmospheric record for temperature and precipitation goes back over 100 years. We can actually do 100-year model runs and get model validation for a rough idea of what the climate looks like in the future. The economists on the denialist side who say climate change research and climate change strategies for adaptation will cost too much, don't validate their economic models. Remember voodoo economics? Voodoo economics was a theory that said all you've got to do is give the rich all the money they need and everything will flow down. Well, water flows downhill, but money does not. I want to say something about environmental justice, in particular because a couple of decades ago, the Environmental Protection Agency started an environmental justice program. And just in the last 6 or 8 years, it began to flourish. It is now proposed to have $0 next fiscal year. But it's not just EPA. Science across the federal landscape in the agencies like NOAA, NASA, the BLM, the Forest Service, the U.S. Geologic Survey, the Centers for Disease Control, the National Science Foundation, the National Science Institutes of Health are all being slated for cuts, and programmatic cuts that are touted as duplicative. But when you look at the details, if every duplicative program gets eliminated, there is no more program. And it's the environmental programs that are being slated for elimination. I'm not talking cuts, I'm talking total elimination. It is time to stand up for science and environmental stewardship in this nation and in our community. I want to work with you today to learn 10 words that can help us to frame the argument about climate change. This comes from some collaborative work with Yale University and George Mason University on the Climate Communication Project. And I'd like you to repeat them after I go through these 5 bits of 2 words. What can we say about climate change? It's real.
It's real.
It's us.
It's us.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Experts agree. There's hope.
There's hope.
What is your role? It's to come out for events like this. It's to get informed and educated. It's to think globally. act locally and actively. Join something. Talk to someone. Civic engagement is important. Who represents you? You met Julie a short time ago. You're going to meet Congressman DeFazio in a moment. But do you know who represents you at your county level, at your city level? These are important. How many of you are registered to vote? If your hand did not go up, you've got 4 days to register for the special election that Lane County is running in May. Registration deadline is on the 25th. That's Tuesday. Put it on your phone. Become a citizen scientist. Get involved in your schools. Get involved in a program like the GLOBE program, which is in 112 countries, and here at Lane Community College, globe.gov if you need a website. Most of all, like me, I urge you, don't lose hope. I haven't lost hope yet. I'm still an optimist, and I will be forever. Thank you.
Has anyone ever heard of someone named Peter DeFazio? He's been working hard for us. Anybody think that he's right on right now? He's here to say a couple of words before we send you off with some music. I'd like to remind you, as we go, we head east first. Counterintuitively, we can handle it. It's the Science March. Counterintuitively east, we go up University, across 19th, down High Street. We do all of this in vivid color, with smiles on our faces, with the escort of our friendly neighborhood police department who are here to keep us safe and protect our First Amendment rights. Eugene, please do us proud on this and give a big round of applause for Peter DeFazio.
Thank you. And I hate to date myself, but 47 years ago, a young graduate student at the University of Oregon went to the first Earth Day celebration over in front of the EMU. It was different in those days. The university, we'd been going through a contentious time with the Vietnam War, but the administration was on board with us for that. They actually suspended classes for 3 hours in the middle of the day so we could do a teach-in and begin a movement. Now, in those days, the Willamette River was pretty much an open sewer. The previous summer, we'd had Black Friday, where the field burning was so intense you couldn't even see the sun. They were harvesting old growth at the rate of hundreds of millions, billions of board feet a year. Across the nation, you had the rivers, the Cuyahoga. When I drove here from the East Coast, drove over the Cuyahoga River, there were signs. It said, "Do not throw lighted objects from bridge, flammable substance below." That was a river. That was the United States of America, 1969, 1970. Now, what came out of that first Earth Day was an incredible movement and awakening in this country. In the next 2 years, we passed the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Endangered Species Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, and the EPA was founded. Thank you to America's first people who lived a lot more gently and sustainably upon the earth. We can learn a lot from them and their history in this country. So, we are here today because we're called again to action like we were 47 years ago, but for different reasons. The scientific foundation of research and evidence on which these monumental pieces of legislation were founded may be stripped by people prioritizing profits over people in the planet. We are confronted with climate change with an existential threat to all life on Earth, and we cannot let them continue to deny the science and the proof that we are destroying our planet, and there is no plan B for us. We have to save our planet. A so-called skinny budget from the rather chubby guy wants to cut over 200 research institutions in the United States, the same institutions that are training the next generation of research scientists who will protect our environment, who will fight cancer, who are learning more about our brain, who will teach our children, warn us about earthquakes, power our planet sustainably, build the cities of tomorrow, and protect us from the ravages of disease, and yes, make better beer. I am the co-chair of the Craft Brewers Caucus in Congress. It's the only bipartisan thing left in that town. So without these robust budgets right here today for the University of Oregon, Oregon State, Portland State, and other research institutes, where are we going to get our next generation of geologists, geographers, counselors, doctors, biologists, engineers, planners, oceanographers, foresters, farmers, psychologists? We have national medal science winners at the U of O here like Jerry Richmond and Mike Posner, who need to continue pushing the envelope on research in chemistry, neuroscience, and psychology. You know, we used to be, I think, a very long time ago, when there was a question of whether or not the Union would stand, Abraham Lincoln and Congress established the National Academy of Sciences and the land-grant university system because they knew investing in science and research was in the national interest. It was imperative back then. They got it today. Trump and the Republicans don't get it. To them, facts don't matter, so who needs research? You know, after the first Earth Day in 1970, the New York Times reported, conservatives were for it, liberals were for it, Democrats, Republicans, and independents were for it. But not so today. Now, the proposed skinny budget, as Paul said earlier, they don't want to know things. And we've had scientists at the end of the Obama administration start transferring massive databases off to university campuses because they were afraid that these databases, particularly those that relate to climate change and prove it's real, would be destroyed by this administration. How crazy is that? What kind of people are we dealing with? You know, they're going to cut the EPA 31%, $900 million from the Department of Energy. That is their non-nuclear weapons budget, which is going to go up. National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, National Institutes of Health. They don't just stop with earth sciences to promote their fossil fuel agenda. They don't even care about solving some of the diseases that afflict the people on this planet. They cut the National Institutes of Health in an unprecedented way by $5.8 billion. Then they cut the CDC. What's going to happen? Centers for Disease Control, when we have another Zika virus, or we have something worse that afflicts us, and we have no one to turn to help control it. You know, scientists who've spent their career at the EPA are now finding their research cast aside. They're being blacklisted, or they're put high on the list for a layoff. Science shouldn't be political. It shouldn't be impacted by partisan politics. Yet the Trump administration does not uphold evidence-based science policy as a priority, and that's got to change. To them, facts don't matter. Climate change is a hoax. Some of you might have noticed my opponent a guy named Professor Art Robinson, Dr. Art Robinson. His institute down in Cave Junction, which is actually a survivalist compound, has definitively disproven climate change as a hoax. And he's backed by the same billionaire, Mr. Mercer, who gave us Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. There are powerful forces arrayed on the other side, but they don't have our numbers, they don't have our enthusiasm, and they do not have facts on their side. Now, why are all these cuts necessary? Yeah, we are piling up a mountain of debt for our kids and grandkids, and that concerns me. So maybe it's like just essential because Trump's going to deliver a balanced budget. Well, no, that's not it at all. Actually, we're cutting all the things we've been talking about, Paul talked about, and others talked about here today, to fund the big, beautiful, stupid wall between the United States and our neighbors in Mexico. And to give a $54 billion increase to the Pentagon. The Pentagon that has more money than the next 7 countries combined.